If you were to trek through the miles of red desert in Australia's Northern Territory, you would find yourself completely alone. Considered inhospitable and dangerous, there's a reason why the outback is largely uninhabited. Scorching summer temperatures, limited annual rainfall, and high salt concentration in the soil makes for a brutal environment where few plants can grow. Imagine then how shocking it would be if on your backpacking trip battling sunburns, snakes, and dingoes, you suddenly came upon a building. Not an old dilapidated outpost, but a giant, fenced-off, million-dollar compound, white-domed, with nearly 800 employees inside guarded by snipers authorized to shoot to kill. It sounds like something one might see in a dehydration hallucination or a sci-fi fanfic, but it's real. You have stumbled upon the strange, enigmatic facility known as Pine Gap, and nobody's quite sure what actually goes on there.
Welcome back to Let's Get Haunted
with your hosts,
Nat Strawn
and Allie. Welcome back, Haunties, to episode 219 of Let's Get Haunted. We are your ghost hosts, Nat and Allie. But for the next 2 hours, we will be your haunters, you will be our haunties, and we'll all be getting haunted. Before we can get into this week's absolutely batshit story about portals, spies, and aliens, it's time for a 5 to 10 minute segment of something we like to call personal hauntings. Yeah. Nat, do you want to explain what personal hauntings are?
Personal hauntings are when Allie and I talk about what haunted things are going on in our personal lives. Now, if you're new here, getting haunted isn't just paranormal. It can also just be cursed things that are happening to you in your regular life. Like maybe you stumble upon a meth challenge and you decide to partake in it, and then you end up ruining your life. That could be your personal haunting for that week. That's basically it.
Perfect. I have one thing that I do want to talk about, which is that we are having a Bingus scavenger hunt on our website, where if you find all 3 hidden bingi on the website and screenshot them and email them to us, we will email you back a 25% off the merch store promo code coupon code.
Wait, so how do they tell us that they found them all?
So you're going to go to our website, www.letsgethaunted.com, and you're going to click around. You're going to look at all the different pages, and there are 3 hidden binguses that some are easy to find, and one I think is hard to find. So we'll see if anyone actually finds the last one. When you find them, screenshot each bingus and then email it to us. And then we'll email you back a 25% off code for the merch store.
Wow. Who has the time for this? Us and you.
Are you on the toilet right now having diarrhea? Congratulations. Start hunting for binguses.
Yeah, the diarrhea bingus challenge. It's so thoughtful. Yeah, it's so thoughtful.
We are so thoughtful, aren't we?
Okay, so I want to talk about something. It's not necessarily like a personal haunting. Maybe it is. I don't know. But those of you who have listened for a long time, you know that Allie thinks I'm a minimalist. I think that's just compared to like her being a straight up hoarder. She thinks I'm a minimalist. I don't think I'm a minimalist, but apparently I am. But I've been doing this new thing because I'm postpartum, right? I'm heavier and I'm bigger than I was in the past. And so my clothes don't fit. And then I've been like putting things away that don't fit because it's like my drawers are super full with like my postpartum clothes and my maternity clothes and my like pre-baby clothes. And so I've just been trying to like declutter or whatever and put things away. I'm not going to like throw away my good pre-baby clothes or whatever because it's like so expensive to replace them now that I'm just like,
Right.
Well, if I fit in these again in the future, great. But I've been doing this new thing every day where I'm like, it's the throw one thing away challenge. It sounds wasteful,
wow.
but it's actually not, because I'm talking about like a sock that doesn't have a match that's just been in your drawer for like 4 years because you're like, I know the match is somewhere about, but I don't know where it is. And now I've moved like 4 times. That sock's not coming back. And even if it came back, I wouldn't want it. So I throw it away. Or like the old underwear that like you got your period in and there's like, elastic like doesn't go back together. Throw throw it away. And now it's getting like a little bit tougher because all of the things that were easy to throw away are gone. And so now I'm having to like find things like a piece of lint in a purse I haven't used in 5 years. Throw it away. But I actually feel so free, and I want you guys to do the throw it away challenge with me. It really is like so rewarding. Like you get out of your car, you know, you have that moment where you're like, oh fuck, I just want to shut the door and go inside and be done. Or you could like get rid of a little piece of trash, you know, throw it away.
Wow.
You're welcome.
So we've got 2 challenges for you this month, the Bingus bathroom challenge and the throw it away challenge.
Yeah.
My socks never match, and it drives everyone in my life insane because they're like, I don't understand. How is it that your socks never match? And it's because rather than like folding my socks and like putting them together into a drawer, I take all the socks out of the dryer and I throw them into this ottoman that actually used to belong to you. Now that I'm thinking about it, you had given me this ottoman. It's like cream colored velvet. I'm pretty sure like Urban Outfitters. And you had given it to me when I was living in Woodland Hills. And I have used that ottoman for my socks ever since. So I will just shovel socks straight from the dryer into this ottoman without looking for its match. And so now none of my socks ever match. And I feel like I've been doing this for so long that there's no point in modifying my behavior.
That is so like not on brand for you. Allie is like the most organized, like she knows what you're going to ask before you ask it. And she has like a guidebook of questions and answers that you could possibly have about any situation, right? Like she's like always thinking ahead and she runs our business essentially. And so I'm like, what? I did not partake you as like a mismatched sock person.
It's true.
That's so upsetting. That is strange. Maybe that's like the only place for you to express like being unorganized. And so you're just living with it.
It could be. I have been watching on TikTok. I don't know if you're on this side of TikTok or not, but there's this whole type A versus type B personality thing going on. And it'll be somebody who's saying like, hi, I'm the type A friend and I planned the itinerary for the trip. And it's like color coded. I can relate to that. You know what I mean? But then there's another friend in the group that's like, hi, I'm the type B friend. And yes, I'm going to pick you up and I'm going to get you there on time, but we will be running 5 red lights and my socks will be mismatched. And I'm like, I relate to that too. Does anyone else also wear mismatched socks? Let us know in the comments and make me feel better. I don't really have any personal hauntings available for the public feed this week. At some point, we're going to have some really juicy things.
So juicy.
You cannot even imagine the terror that has befallen our podcast.
We're back to 2020 right now.
Yes.
This is that bad, you guys. Like global pandemic is happening for our podcast.
Nuclear fallout is happening for our podcast. Now, I know, longtime listeners, you've heard us say over and over again in the past, like, whoa, this is the worst month ever. And then it ends up not being that bad. But this might actually be the weirdest, at least. Like the weirdest, most confrontational month ever. It's been pretty wild, but more on that later. It's not time to speak on it yet. I don't really have any personal hauntings for this week. Do you have anything else you want to share before we move on?
No, I think we need to move on. I just want to say like a little teaser, you guys. We can't talk more about it right now because there's a mole. There's a mole listening to this.
It's true. You guys, this is not a lie or exaggeration. There is a mole that has infiltrated our podcast. Just be aware if you see anyone weird in the comments section, if you see anyone weird in the Patreon comments section, it's all the same person and you're never going to guess who it is. Hey guys, Allie here. I'm going to talk to you about NUTRAFOL for a sec because they're not just a sponsor of the show. I actually use their products. Specifically, I use their women's vegan formula, and today I'm coming out as a stan, as a NUTRAFOL stan. I'm going to get real vulnerable with you for a minute. I have hair thinning. I used to try to hide it because I thought it was embarrassing, but then I realized that lots of other women are going through the exact same thing, and actually it would be way better if we all just talk about it. That way we can share helpful tips and tricks that actually work. Now, tabling my personal experience for a moment, we're entering a very crucial phase of the year for people that experience hair thinning, and that is summer. If your hair's fucked up in winter, you can put on a hat or beanie. If your hair's fucked up in the summer, you can put on a baseball cap. But as a chronic baseball cap wearer, let me just tell you that if you're wearing a baseball cap 24/7, people notice and talk shit about it. Plus, you can't swim in a baseball cap. Can you imagine you're just swimming in a pool and all of a sudden some guy pops up next to you, fully wearing like a Pittsburgh Steelers hat, just dripping, soaking wet, trying to chat you up? Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. You may have heard of Nutrafol's hair growth supplements and wondered, do they actually work? It's a fair question. Many hair supplements overpromise and underdeliver, but Nutrafol is different. As the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, it's trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's clinically tested to deliver real results in just 3 to 6 months. This summer, stop worrying about your hair and start making memories. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to NUTRAFOL.com and enter the promo code HAUNTED. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at NUTRAFOL.com, spelled NUTRAFOL.com, promo code HAUNTED. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code HAUNTED. And now back to your regularly scheduled haunting. All right, well, without further ado, Nat, would you like to get into this week's story?
Yes, let's do it. I'm ready to get haunted.
Here we go. Today's story comes from a land down under. A country known for having some of Earth's most bizarre abominations in the animal kingdom. From the ball-sack-looking echidna, to God's mistake, aka the platypus, to kangaroos with crazy traps that will make you ask yourself, do you even lift, bro? To man-eating sharks, baby-eating dingoes, flesh-rotting spiders, STD-carrying marsupials, and more, Australia is truly a land of extremes. It's the only continent that is also a country. It's home to the world's longest fence, the largest coral reef system, the world's longest golf course, and it has more beaches than any other place on Earth. But did you know that Australia is also home to a top secret space monitoring facility that, at least at one time, was rumored to be headed by a member of the American CIA?
What? How is it top secret if we know about it? What do you mean?
Oh my God. I am about to unravel for you just a complex web of schemes, top secret documents that were declassified, people that have come out as whistleblowers, people that still refuse to talk to this day, but we know that they work at this facility. It is absolutely fucking insane. And today we'll be traveling to the center of Australia's outback to a facility that has been dubbed Australia's Area 51. Over the years, its presence has generated protests, documentaries, fictional Netflix dramas, and more than one conspiracy theory. Some say it's a spy base for the American government. Some say it's an innocent science laboratory. Some say it's a satellite tracking facility for the military. And some say it's the site of an interdimensional wormhole where aliens can easily enter and exit Earth's atmosphere. Join us on this week's episode of Let's Get Haunted as we dive deep into the conspiracies of Pine Gap, Australia.
Whoa.
Nat, have you ever heard of Pine Gap, Australia?
No, but I didn't know Australia had the longest fence. Like, that's you. Is it not the Great Wall of China, or does that not count as a fence? That's a wall.
You know what? Good question. Is a wall a fence? Hold on, guys. Let's fact check. Is a wall a fence? No, it's not.
Oh my God.
A wall is not a fence. A fence is typically a structure made of posts and materials like wood, wire, or metal designed to define a boundary or enclosure, while a wall is usually a solid, continuous, and thicker structure, often made of masonry.
Wow. Okay, guys. Fun party icebreaker conversation starter. Did you know that a wall is technically not a fence? That'll get them.
Wow. You know what? I've actually, now that you're saying this out loud, I have actually been wondering this for a while. Because sometimes I'll be talking to people at work and I'll be like, oh yeah, like a drunk driver went through the fence over there. And then I'm like, but is it a wall? I've actually thought this before. Wow. This is an educational podcast, guys. Unintentionally or intentionally, you're going to learn something here today. Now, will the facts always be 100% correct? No, because this is a haunted podcast. If you want factually correct information, go watch a PBS documentary. We're about to get spooked and haunted and talk about interdimensional wormholes and portals that you can't prove whether they exist or not.
Right. I agree.
Great. Glad we're on the same page. So I'm going to send you some pictures, Natalia, of what this facility looks like, because although there are conspiracies associated with this location, it's not a secret that it exists. And you can even see it on Google Maps.
Oh.
We're going to look at some pictures now. These ones come from Wikipedia, Getty, the New York Times, and the Nautilus Institute. And I'll be throwing them up on the screen for anyone watching on YouTube. Otherwise, if you're tuning into the audio-only version of our show, head over to @Let'sGetHaunted on Instagram to flip through key images on this week's photo dump and follow along with us. Nat, for anyone listening who is not able to view the images, do you want to describe some of these for our listeners?
Yeah. Okay, so the first one is like a map and it's showing Pine Gap, which is like basically in the exact center of Australia. Like if you were to give a child a map of Australia and say like draw a dot at the very center of that, that's exactly where Pine Gap is. And then there's a photo of Pine Gap. And yeah, it looks like the Australian Area 51. Like it's a very arid desert looking type climate. I'm assuming this is the outback. But I'm not sure. That's just like, as far as I know, Australia is just like really, really hot people like surfing and like designing sunscreen and stuff, and then just like complete desert. Okay, so this area, this is weird. Okay, there's like a bunch of these little ball things, and they kind of look like observatories or like telescopes, you know, when you see the like really legit telescopes that can like look out into space or whatever, they're in that big circular thing, or it looks like a globe, like the Epcot thing at Disney, the Disney Epcot thing. There's a bunch of those. Some of them are various sizes. It looks like there's 3 really big ones, and there's 3 medium ones, and then there's like 3 to 5 smaller ones. And then next to this like satellite whatever telescope area, it's like a grassed area, and it looks like there's a pool. There's like landscaping and stuff, which is strange to me. I don't know if that's like a water feature, like maybe the people who work there have access to a pool or something, but it looks like a lap pool from this aerial photo. And it looks like there's a bunch of different buildings too that kind of like they look like warehouses or like hangars maybe. Very, very interesting. I mean, it definitely looks like some sort of military base or something. I'm trying to figure out if there's a runway here, but I don't see one. Actually, no, maybe this is a runway, but it's just a dirt runway. Honestly, I don't know. It does not look like something that's getting in airplanes and stuff, but I would imagine that you could fly an airplane there.
Well, even though we can see pictures of the facility from Google Earth or from people that have hiked the nearby mountains and looked down, because this facility is kind of in a valley. It's a desert. It's an arid environment, like you said. There's red earth soil. There are dingoes. There's kangaroos. Like this is the outback. It's not populated at all. Like it's very sparsely populated when you get into the Australian outback, especially the heart of it. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But we kind of just have to speculate, because although we can see it, there are very few formal documents that actually explain what this is. So you're right. It looks like maybe there's a runway of some type. Maybe there's a pool of some type. There's these weird Epcot golf ball looking big white dome structures dotting the area. But we just kind of have to guess what it is, because there aren't too many reliable sources that say exactly what it is. But we do know a little bit about the origins of the base. Our story begins where all good conspiracies begin, during the Cold War.
May Day celebration in Moscow's Red Square, and the traditional parade features military equipment such as intercontinental missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, and tanks. But for the first time in 3 years, the Russians do not show any new weapons.
A time in history where everyone was paranoid about spies, communism, nuclear war, and the end of the world brought about by these 3 things. In the middle of the Cold War in 1966, Australia and the United States entered into a treaty with one another, which allowed the U.S. to build what we now know as Pine Gap on Australian soil. The treaty stated that after 9 years of operation, Australia would be able to revoke, renew, or renegotiate the terms of the treaty. Publicly, Pine Gap was labeled as a Joint Defense Space Research Facility, and was pitched as being part celestial observatory and part space laboratory. After 4 years of construction, the base was finally opened in 1970 with 400 American families relocating to the area to work there. The number of employees at the base would increase from 400 in 1970 to 600 in the 1990s, and then to 800 in 2017. Pine Gap still exists today and is still in operation, though details on the facility, including its true purpose and current number of employees, has not been updated since 2017. And the initial story of Pine Gap makes little sense. Why would 400 Americans be sent to a space observatory in the middle of the Australian outback during the Cold War? Curious rubberneckers trying to get a glimpse of the facility from the surrounding mountain ranges were confused by the white dome-like structures dotting the parched red earth. People who tried driving up to the facility found themselves confronted by menacing signs along the road, warning trespassers to turn around now or suffer the consequences. Those who ignored the signs and tried to get even closer to Pine Gap were chased down by armed security forces, slapped with jail time and/or fines that, according to some accounts, total as high as 5,000 USD. So if you cross over the threshold of Pine Gap, if you make it past the signs that say turn around now, you're going to be fined. Some people say as low as 3,000, some people say as high as 5,000. I say doesn't really matter. Once you're talking about over 1,000, it's all the same.
Right.
Like that is really, really steep. You do not want to be on this road.
Right.
The airspace over Pine Gap is also restricted, with no planes allowed to fly overhead. And this led the public to wonder, if this was just a space observatory, why all the threats and secrecy? Despite local rumors about what might really be going on at Pine Gap, the base managed to fly largely under the radar for decades, up until 1999. The reason why it was able to go relatively unquestioned by the Australian public for so long is due to the unique way Australia's population is distributed throughout the country. Do you know much about Australia's population and the Australian outback at all, Nat?
I mean, I know that the majority of people who live in Australia live like on the coast and like a few cities, and that the middle of Australia is like super unpopulated. And I think there's like no infrastructure there either. So it's like, I remember seeing on Reddit, there's a sign before you get on this road that goes like across the country through the center of Australia. And it's like, do not go on this road. There's no cell service for days. There's no gasoline for days. There's nothing here. The road turns into dirt. Like, it's not, why are you here? If you're here, essentially, you should know exactly why you're here and be super prepared for it. And I guess like people go and die like out in Australia all the time because they're not taking it seriously, but there's literally like no infrastructure in the center of the country as far as I know.
Yeah, you're correct. I just sent you a couple of maps to look at that shows different ways we can categorize the population distribution throughout Australia. But you're right. The Australian outback refers to 5.6 million square kilometers of deserts, plains, and mountains found in central and western Australia. While the outback does encompass a number of climates and microclimates, in general, it's really hot during the day, it can get really cold at night, and very few people live there. Sent you a couple of maps. They're from Wikipedia, Brilliant Maps, and Reddit if you want to describe what you're seeing to the audience.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. So it's actually even less populated, like the density, than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be like all the way around the coast. That's where all of the people were going to be. That's where we would see the majority of the population. It would look like a ring, right? So just like a ring, and then the center would be unpopulated. But looking up these maps, it shows you the population density, and it's literally like basically just the right coast off Australia and a tiny portion of the left coast of Australia. So I guess that would be the west and the east coasts of Australia are populated, but like the north and the south and the majority of the west is like totally remote. Like there's nothing there except for this one little tiny dot in the center, which I guess you're going to tell me is Pine Gap?
That's Pine Gap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Isn't that crazy, though? It's just surrounded by... So the way that my favorite one of these maps categorizes everything is they're doing it by color, which makes it really easy to tell. So it's like, oh, the higher density areas are blue, and then it goes down to green, then yellow, then orange, then red. And red means basically nobody lives there. And it's crazy because Pine Gap is orange, and then everything around it is red.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, like, okay, if we're going to be real crazy, I wonder if they wanted it to be super remote. So it's like they could be, it's like Mars, you know? It kind of looks like a Martian landscape to me, or like a different planet's landscape. So I wonder if they're like testing different things to see if it would work, like colonization techniques or whatever. I don't know.
Ooh.
I don't know what it's for, guys. It seems real weird. I'm also just wondering about Australia in general. Like, you would think that they would be like, oh, we could get land out in the center of this country for super cheap. Like, let's go build a city there. Like, I mean, we put Vegas in the middle of fuck nowhere, right? So, like, why is it not populated?
Go super deep into the politics of population in Australia. My understanding, just based on a few things I read, was that there are people that live in this red portion, but it's a combination of it being super inhospitable. You can't grow any crops there. The ground is super hard, super salty. It's really, really hot, like insanely hot. And so you just don't have the ability to get the plumbing and infrastructure into that area. But then also, I think a lot of it is protected wildlands, and some of it also belongs to the indigenous population of Australia.
Do the kangaroos live there?
They sure do. There are allegedly tons of kangaroos that are just hopping around Pine Gap looking for a fight. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen a kangaroo. These bitches are jacked.
Yeah.
Like, this would make a bodybuilder look like such a bitch. Like, they have these crazy trapezoid muscles, whatever they're called, traps, and they just go all the way up their neck, and they're just constantly like flexing, and they're scary.
They're scary.
Weird looking.
I saw a video. There's a famous video that I'm sure everyone's seen where it's like the kangaroo's trying to drown that guy's dog, and he has to like walk up to it and punch it into the face. That one I've seen, but I recently saw another one where it's like a bunch of people on a golf course, and a kangaroo goes up to them, and it's not even a big one. It's not like a jacked one, but for some reason it's like super pissed off, and it's like hissing and growling, and this guy literally takes like a golf club and like hits it, and the thing doesn't stop. It's like still hopping towards him, like looking for a fight. And I don't know, they're just crazy. Now I wonder, did anyone else see this movie? This is like burned into my head as a child. It's called Kangaroo Jack. Did anybody see this movie?
I've heard of it before. I don't know if I ever saw it. Is Jack Black in it or no?
I doubt it. I can't remember. It's literally about a kangaroo. I honestly can't remember what it's about. It's about a kangaroo. At one point, he like starts rapping. He like is wearing a gold chain. Honestly, what is the plot of Kangaroo Jack? Hold on. We have to know. 1 second. This is very important. Kangaroo Jack. Okay. It's two friends from Brooklyn are forced to deliver mob money to Australia. Their misadventures begin when one of them places his red jacket on a kangaroo while attempting to snap a picture. When the kangaroo bounces off, they realize the mob money is in the jacket, and they're forced to give chase through the outback. Yes, it is an insane movie. Like, whoever wrote this movie is like fucking, it's just so great. Like, there's so many just amazing. Honestly, I haven't seen it in a long time. It could be like not great, but I think everyone should watch it. Unless it's not good, then don't. But I feel like you should, as long as it's not problematic.
So what you're trying to say is that Australia is crazy. Mm-hmm. And there is a reputation, at least in the US, that Australians are super tough because of how dangerous their environment is. With all of these weird creatures that, because Australia is kind of an island, right? It's a continent and a country. It's all by itself. Stuff developed there differently than it did in other countries. That's why we have the weird platypus, which is a venomous mammal that lays eggs with a duck bill and a beaver tail. You know, it's why they have the echidna, which also is a mammal that lays eggs. And those are, I think, the only two on Earth, and they're both Pokemon. In Australia.
It's like
they're Pokemon. Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. So because the outback is so inhospitable, most people in Australia live along the coastal regions, like we said. This leaves large portions of the interior of the country the perfect place to hide away a facility like Pine Gap. The nearest city to Pine Gap is Alice Springs, located about 8.9 kilometers away or 12 miles, with a population of just 25,000 people at the time of its last census. So, if the facility is so remote, how did it finally end up on the public's radar in 1999, you might be wondering? Well, in 1999, the Australian government held a joint committee on treaties, where various treaties involving Australia were examined. For example, there was a hearing to discuss Australia's participation in a treaty aimed at conserving marine life. There was a different hearing about a treaty to preserve women's rights. And there was a strange hearing held in September of that year where the committee discussed Pine Gap. What made this hearing particularly strange is that, unlike with the other two treaties I already mentioned, the committee was mostly trying to figure out what the fuck Pine Gap was. They knew a treaty existed between Australia and the US. They knew the facility existed and that it was being used for something involving outer space, but Pine Gap was so top secret that they had no idea what it was actually being used for. So the committee decided to call in some people from Pine Gap to testify about it. These people included a former Pine Gap employee named Professor Dibb and a self-professed intelligence expert named Professor Ball. While Dibb and other former and current employees of Pine Gap refused to answer the committee's questions, Ball revealed a ton of never-before-heard information. But before we talk about exactly what he said, let me just give you a quick background on Ball himself. So his full name is Desmond Ball. He was a professor in the Strategic and Defense Studies Center at the Australian National University, and his life's passion was educating the public on how countries gather intelligence and how they conduct electronic surveillance. While he was never an employee of Pine Gap, he had conducted extensive research into the facility beginning in the 1970s through reading declassified documents and interviewing former Pine Gap employees off the record. In 1980, he published a book called A Suitable Piece of Real Estate, American Installations in Australia, where he criticized Pine Gap, calling it a risk to the Australian people and accusing the facility of being entirely run by the Americans rather than being a supposed jointly controlled facility. And this book sparked outrage among Australians who were just learning about the existence of Pine Gap for the very first time. This outrage resulted in waves of protests outside the facility's fence line by groups of citizens who wanted the Americans out of their country. One of these protests in particular, held in 1987, resulted in over 200 Australians being arrested. During his statement given to the Joint Committee on Treaties, Desmond Ball explained that while Pine Gap may have started as a modest satellite station, it had quietly ballooned into one of the most powerful intelligence facilities on planet Earth. Ball began by explaining that Pine Gap is tasked with monitoring military activities in enemy countries, including, during the time of the Cold War, places like Russia, China, Pakistan, Japan, Korea, and India. Then Ball dropped a bombshell. Publicly, Pine Gap said it was monitoring space, but privately, it was actually monitoring people. From deep inside the heart of the outback, Pine Gap was supposedly controlling spy satellites that eavesdrop on missile tests, radar systems, satellite uplinks, and even microwave transmissions, which includes private phone conversations across vast regions of the globe. The implication was alarming. Pine Gap could listen in on anyone's conversations at any time for any reason, and the public had no idea. Ball ended his speech by warning that his sources had told him that while there was a publicly available version of the Pine Gap Treaty for officials to read, a second, classified agreement held the real secrets of Pine Gap, including just how far its surveillance network truly reaches. The weather is heating up, and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. If you wake up too hot or too cold, check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. I live in a house with no air conditioning, okay, so I know what I'm talking about. Shit gets hot. And sometimes it doesn't matter if you're sleeping naked with all the windows open and a bag of frozen peas on your forehead. It's still hot. What do I do to beat the heat? Miracle Made. Miracle Made. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. If you're into skincare, switching to Miracle should be a no-brainer. With their whole line of self-cleaning antibacterial bedding such as sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent up to 99.7% of bacteria growth and require up to 3 times less laundry, which is great if you're a dirty little trash person like me and don't wash your sheets every week like you should. Go to trymiracle.com/haunted to try Miracle Made sheets today. Don't wait. Upgrade your sleep before the weather heats up. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code HAUNTED at checkout, you'll get a free 3-piece towel set and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/haunted and use the code HAUNTED to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/haunted to treat yourself. Thanks, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this week's episode. And now back to your regularly scheduled haunting.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. I was trying to relate it. At first, I was like, why do the Australians care so much that it's like run by Americans, right? Like, it seems like that was like one of the major trigger points for them. And then I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, well, if I found out that Area 51 was actually just all like Australians, like being Aussies, and they were like, hey, mate, good day. Let's do some tests today. No, I would be like, holy shit, what are they doing? Like, why are the Australians here? What does Australia want to do with my desert? You know? So it is like, then you just flip that for them, right? Like, they're like, why are the Americans in the middle of our outback? What are they doing?
Totally. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. And even though we are allies with Australia, which we will talk about a little bit later in this episode, I think a lot of people just, especially like members of the public of many countries on Earth, do not like the Americans. And so probably for the public, it was more alarming than for the government because the Australian government gave the Americans permission to be there. So clearly they have to be fine with it on some level. But I think for the public, it was super alarming because it would be, like you said, if we just found out that there was a weird compound in the middle of the Nevada desert where some other country, whether it was Canada or Australia or whomever, is just like chilling there. Like, oh, we just have like a group of 800 British people and their families that hang out in a compound in the middle of the desert and none of us know what they're doing there. Like, it's alarming.
It's strange.
It is.
Yeah.
It is strange. Now, what Desmond Ball, who, by the way, is like the #1 hater of Pine Gap on Earth, this professor, he would take home the gold as biggest hater on Earth of Pine Gap. He dedicated his whole life to just being a hater. And one of the things that he revealed is, you know, those weird golf ball looking structures that we talked about? Those are actually caps that you put over radar dishes, which I didn't know.
Okay, so I was going to say, I thought I was being stupid because I was like, oh, it looks like those things that are on the top of boats. But I was like, don't be a redneck right now, Nat. Like, no one needs that. And yeah, okay, so here's some interesting information for people. If you ever go like deep sea fishing, or if you're ever like next to a marina or anything like that, the way that you can tell if a boat is new or not, because boat technology hasn't changed that much, right? Like a boat from, like a yacht from like the 90s basically looks almost identical to like a yacht that was made today, except for like a few aesthetic changes or whatever. They don't really change them up too much. But the way that you can tell is by looking up the radar. So like those big ball things on the top, those are super old. Now you can have them that are like really, really tiny so that you can barely even see them anymore. And so yeah, at first I was thinking like, well, they look like radar cover things that would be on a boat. But I was like, why would they be that big? Like, there's no way. But I guess if you're fucking spying on the whole globe, maybe it does need to be that big. You know, that's crazy that they can listen in to like testing in other countries and stuff like that. Are they doing it digitally? I wonder, like, are they like just hacking into the mainframe or whatever and listening in? Or are they literally, it's like the cup technology, right? Like where you put like a cup up against a fucking wall with, or like with a little string, and they have just like altered the cup string technology. You know, like, is it actually listening? Like, is it a giant ear? And how does it filter out? Like, is it a hearing aid for Australia? And how does it filter out all the other stuff? Like, you would think if it's listening to something over in Iran or whatever, it's going to pick up all the other countries in between, right? Like, it's like, oh, sorry, I'm hearing things in Japan. Like, how does it work?
That's going to be above my pay grade, but I did buy this book that I highly recommend everybody interested in this subject buys because it's really in-depth. It is a Google Play book that I bought. I think it costs $9.99. It's called Project Rainfall by Tim Gilling, and he goes more in depth about how listening in and spying and espionage actually works in the modern age, but a lot of it has to do with satellites. I don't really understand how it works. It's like maybe they're bouncing a signal off a satellite and then it comes back down into the country they want. We'll talk a little bit about some of the things that I read, but I am totally the wrong person to be explaining this, and I'm sure if I'd even tried it would be completely wrong. But Professor Ball's shocking testimony meant that the government was allowing and even participating in Americans spying from Australian soil. Ball also told the committee to make no mistake, Pine Gap wasn't just a passive listening station. It was also being used for controversial drone strikes in enemy countries. According to Ball, since Pine Gap had advanced spy technology that could monitor not only satellites, but also cell phones, it was using the geolocation of certain cell phone numbers to order unmanned drone strikes. Basically, if a certain phone number was associated with a terrorist, Pine Gap was sweeping the planet looking for the location of that cell phone signature. Once it located the phone's location would be bombed with precision missiles. This practice is controversial because there's no guarantee that the terrorist will actually be near their phone at the time of the strike, and innocent civilians can be easily killed. As Australian media began slowly picking up the story, members of the public began traveling to Pine Gap to protest outside the compound's gates once more. And in 1 year alone, around 300 protesters were arrested for breaching the facility's perimeter. And it's kind of funny. I was looking into some of these protests, but I didn't write down any information about them because it's not super relevant. But one of the protests literally just looked like Woodstock. Like a bunch of people traveled out there. Yeah, with megaphones and drum circles and guitars and signs that are like, let the world have peace. And then there's just like a guy with a big AV sound system with like dirty hair and he's just screaming into a megaphone while a guy plays the electric guitar behind him. And then there's just all these police converging on the area. It's not surprising that Pine Gap has later been turned into a Netflix series that I'll mention at the end of the episode. Like there's something very cinematic about it for sure.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like Mad Max or something, just like how desolate it is. And yeah, I just wonder, like, I wonder how all these protesters even get out there because, like, I thought it's like certain death, but I guess they're prepared for it. I don't know. That's crazy.
I think if you're Australian, you probably know what you need to pack to go through there, because to go back to what you said earlier, you're totally right that there's these large stretches of outback highway that are 1 or 2 lanes. That's it. And they have these big signs that say there is no diesel or gas for 40 days, like something crazy. Like you better have your own gas. You better have your own provisions. If your car breaks down, you better have a satellite phone because no one's coming to get you. Nobody checks except for maybe long haul truckers every once in a while that are going by. And because of that, some of Australia's craziest serial killer stories come from the outback, because there was this one serial killer in particular who would target hitchhikers and backpackers that were going through the outback. And he would drive up and down these long stretches of desolate highway and offer people rides. And sometimes people who were not prepared for the trip would be like, oh, thank God, like somebody came by, I'm saved. And they'd get in this guy's truck and he would just fuck them up. And in some cases, he would begin by paralyzing them. So he would break their spine and they'd still be alive and just do unspeakable horrors to them. So it's crazy out there. It really is a no man's land.
Oh my God.
It has to be a different episode of Let's Get Haunted.
Yeah.
But even though some of the public was catching on to Pine Gap's true purpose, the facility continued to operate in silence, with the government refusing to either confirm, deny, or clarify the extent of Pine Gap's activities. That is until the case broke wide open in 2013 when a man named Edward Snowden came along. Natalia, do you know who Edward Snowden is?
Okay, like vaguely. All of that shit that goes down, like I feel like I know some people's names, but like I don't really actually know what happened. Like, is he the WikiLeaks guy? Edward Snowden?
That's Julian Assange.
Okay. What did Edward Snowden do?
Perfect. Thank you for asking. You've set me up perfectly. So we're about to learn a lot of acronyms. So everybody pay attention for the next 2 paragraphs and then we can all forget it. So born in North Carolina in 1983, Edward Snowden was just 29 years old when he became a whistleblower, leaking thousands of top secret documents to journalists in 2013. Snowden had been working as an employee for a contractor called Booz Allen Hamilton, a tech firm that specializes in designing computer systems for the U.S. government. Booz Allen Hamilton was hired to provide the NSA with tech services. Do you know what the NSA is, Nat?
No, that's not NSA. National Security Association?
Pretty much, yeah. The NSA stands for National Security Agency, and it's actually part of the U.S. government under the Department of Defense, which is part of the executive branch. The NSA's job is to spy on enemy communications around the world. The NSA was founded in 1952 by President Harry S. Truman as part of a secret executive order aimed at centralizing all U.S. signals intelligence, aka all information gleaned from spying. The NSA was so top secret that employees joked it stood for no such agency, since they weren't allowed to talk about it, acknowledge it, or even tell their families what they did or where they worked. In 1975, the purpose of the NSA was cracked wide open during something called the Church Committee. Natalia, have you ever heard of the Church Committee?
The Church Committee? Does it have to do with church?
It does not. It's a guy's last name. So the Church Committee was an inquiry headed by an Idaho senator named Frank Church, and he was super troubled by the Watergate scandal, which had happened just 3 years prior. Church wanted to know whether or not 3-letter organizations like the CIA, FBI, or NSA were spying on more than just enemies. And for those of you who don't know, during Watergate, wiretaps placed by President Richard Nixon were discovered hidden at his re-election opponent's headquarters.
First, it was called the Watergate Caper. 5 men apparently caught in the act of burglarizing and bugging Democratic headquarters in Washington. But the episode grew steadily more sinister. No longer a caper, but the Watergate Affair, escalating finally into charges of a high-level campaign of political sabotage and espionage apparently unparalleled in American history.
And this was a big deal at the time because it was an example of the federal government spying on American citizens, not just foreign adversaries. So the Church Committee comes along and they want to know, is this an isolated incident or is it not? And surprise, it's not an isolated incident. The Church Committee revealed shocking details of illegal surveillance such as Project Minaret, which involved monitoring citizens without warrants, and programs like Operation MKUltra, which involved the government conducting illegal mind control experiments on unsuspecting citizens. We covered MKUltra in episode 12 of Let's Get Haunted, but do you want to give a quick refresher for anyone who needs it, Nat?
Yeah, honestly, we need like an MKUltra Part 2 episode because of like recent events. A lot of people think there's some celebrities who have been MKUltras, but in the first episode, we basically talked about how MKUltra was a government experiment on American citizens and citizens abroad, where the government just basically put people through experiments unknowingly. And these experiments were not anything that anyone would consent to if they actually knew they were being put under. And they were like dosing people with LSD through sex workers. So like people would go in to, I don't know, have an afternoon session with a sex worker, and the sex worker was actually like an undercover person who would dose them with LSD. And then they would try like mind control, and they were trying to see if they could control people's thoughts with these new psychedelic drugs that were relatively new at the time.
Among many other things, you're right. It definitely needs its own part 2. But for anyone who wants kind of a crash course on MK Ultra, go back to episode 12. But MK Ultra was discussed during the Church Committee. Other secret operations publicized by the Church Committee included COINTELPRO, Family Jewels, and Operation Mockingbird. COINTELPRO was another secret illegal program run by the FBI where it spied on, disrupted, and discredited American citizens and groups the FBI considered subversive. So one of the most famous examples is that of Martin Luther King Jr., who the FBI sent anonymous letters to urging to kill himself, or else they would expose him for having affairs, allegedly, with white women. Agents infiltrated groups like the Black Panthers and Vietnam War protesters, planting false rumors and trying to cause fights and factions to weaken the power held by these groups. They also used illegal wiretaps, bugged homes and offices, and kept secret files on thousands of people, many of whom were doing absolutely nothing illegal. While there's no direct evidence for this, many have speculated that Marilyn Monroe may have been monitored as part of COINTELPRO before her death in 1962. Operation Mockingbird was the CIA's attempt to control what people read and heard by recruiting members of major media outlets to spread propaganda and gather intelligence. And this effort started during the Cold War. It was exposed by the Church Committee, but it remains unclear if Project Mockingbird's efforts to control the media is still ongoing today. So, why are we talking about this? We're talking about this because all of these shady illegal operations being carried out by the CIA, FBI, and NSA were exposed to the American public in the 1970s at the hands of the Church Committee. The committee's findings then led to significant reforms, including the establishment of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. FISA was designed to put legal limits on government spying, especially against U.S. citizens. And it created a secret court where the government would have to go to show that there's probable cause that the target they wanted to spy on is either a foreign power or the agent of a foreign power, such as a suspected terrorist, a spy, or a hacker. Then, only if FISA court approves, it grants a warrant that allows the government to spy on that person within certain limits. However, this was kind of turned on its head after the September 11th terrorist attacks in 2001, when FISA was expanded, mostly through the Patriot Act, to broaden the rules for surveillance. Okay, all the acronyms are over. We're now going to bring it back to Edward Snowden. Thank you for sticking with me. Snowden, like we said, was working as an employee of Booz Allen Hamilton, who was hired by the NSA to help with their technology systems. In his capacity as an employee, Snowden had backdoor access to all sorts of top secret surveillance data that he was supposed to be organizing and providing cybersecurity for. But Snowden realized that the data he was looking at showed that the NSA was storing massive amounts of information on thousands of U.S. citizens that were being spied on, oftentimes for little to no reason. Snowden then fled the U.S. for Hong Kong, where he leaked thousands of documents that showed this mass surveillance of U.S. citizens to the Washington Post and to the Guardian. Charged with espionage for the leak, Snowden was then forced to defect with his wife from Hong Kong to Moscow, Russia, where he still lives today. So, how does this all relate to Pine Gap in Australia? In 2013, Edward Snowden's leaked documents revealed that Pine Gap, a top secret US-Australian base in the middle of the Australian outback, was doing way more than just looking at stars and tracking satellites. It was actually a key piece of the NSA's global surveillance system. The base helped collect huge amounts of internet data like emails, search histories, and online activity from around the world. It also played a direct role in helping the U.S. military carry out drone strikes and special forces missions by locating targets through intercepted communications and electronic signals. Snowden's leaks also showed that Pine Gap is deeply connected to something called the Five Eyes Alliance. Have you ever heard of the Five Eyes Alliance, Natalia?
Five Eyes Alliance.
It sounds kind of cool. Like, that's a pretty cool name.
Is it eyes like eye, the letter, or eyes like ocular eyes?
Like ocular eyes.
Oh.
EYES. The Five Eyes.
But I'm assuming that it has something to do with like other spy operations all coming together and sharing information with each other?
Ding, ding, ding! The Five Eyes Alliance is a secretive intelligence sharing partnership between the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Together, these countries share information gathered through spying on phone calls, emails, and online behavior, often without people knowing. Additionally, Pine Gap was identified as one of 4 locations in Australia used as part of the NSA's internet surveillance program known as X-Keyscore. This program allowed analysts to search through vast databases containing private emails, online chats, and the browsing history of millions of individuals. This raised major concerns about privacy, especially since some of the spying targeted ordinary citizens, not just foreign threats. Snowden's revelations sparked big questions about whether countries like Australia were giving up too much control to help with American surveillance programs. Despite the controversy and growing public awareness of the base, Pine Gap soldiered on, continuing to operate undisturbed. In 2018, an Australian TV miniseries called Pine Gap imagined a fictionalized version of what it might be like to work at the spy base, imagining a world of beautiful American and Australian spies constantly bickering with each other while trying to save the world and occasionally hooking up. Also in 2018, former NSA employee David Rosenberg published his book Pine Gap, The Inside Story of the NSA in Australia, where he revealed that during his time working at the facility, it was completely run by a senior CIA officer. This was significant because it confirmed long-held suspicions that, despite being labeled as a joint facility, the CIA wields the top authority. Rosenberg also revealed that Australians were not always given full access to operations happening on site, and in many cases, only Americans had clearance for certain programs being run at Pine Gap. In 2019, another nonfiction book, this one by author Tim Gilling, which I shouted out earlier, outlined the origins of the facility. Named after the project that built Pine Gap, Gilling's book, called Project Rainfall, reveals why the location in the middle of the outback was chosen. On page 27, Gilling writes, quote, "Central Australia was the perfect location for eavesdropping on radio transmissions from Southeast Asia, as well as from central and eastern parts of the Soviet Union. They chose a natural basin in the McDonnell Ranges less than 20 kilometers from the town of Alice Springs. It was a former grazing lease called Pine Gap Valley," end quote. In 1966, the head of Australia's Joint Intelligence Bureau drove out to the valley with 3 CIA men named Bud Whelan, Carl Duckett, and Leslie Dirks, and they brought with them a case of red wine to toast to the beginning of the Pine Gap project known as Project Rainfall. Now, global scandals and whistleblowers and secret government spy programs are all very interesting, but this would not be a true LGH episode with some absolutely unhinged, unconfirmed conspiracy theories, and these get crazy.
Okay.
They involve wormholes, portals, aliens, UFO sightings, and something called super soldiers, which we're about to get to in a minute. And these are all related to Pine Gap's presence, so let's move on to the more zany side of this week's tale. We talk a lot about skincare and hair care on this podcast, and this week's sponsor is going to help you improve both. When I was younger, I never thought twice about my pillowcase. I was so privileged and didn't even know it because I was not yet experiencing what I am now experiencing as an adult, which is fine lines on my face and hair breakage. I wish I knew this sooner, but satin is not the same thing as silk. Satin is so bad for you, but BLISSY's silk is an incredible game changer. I have a pink silk BLISSY pillowcase, and it's so cute, so soft, and helps keep my expensive skincare that I've invested money in on my face rather than soaking into my pillowcase. The pillow doesn't need hyaluronic acid. I do. And BLISSY will make sure that your skincare products are soaking into your skin, which is where they should be. Additionally, I have fine, problematic hair. So when I sleep, I used to sleep in a tight bun on top of my head, and now I can't do that because my hair has gotten delicate with age. So I swapped my plebeian cotton pillowcases for a BLISSY, and I've never looked back. BLISSY Silk eliminates frizz, preserves hairstyles, and protects color-treated hair. Not to mention they have anti-aging properties, reducing fine lines and wrinkles over time. They're dermatologist tested and recommended, clinically proven to not clog pores. They're antibacterial and hypoallergenic, and so much more. They were even voted the most loved gift of 2024 with over 3 million sold. And because you're a listener, BLISSY is offering 60 nights risk-free plus an additional 30% off when you shop at blissy.com/LGHPOD. That's BLISSY.com/LGHPod and use code LGHPod to get an additional 30% off. Your skin and hair will thank you. And now back to your regularly scheduled haunting. First, let's talk about an incident known as the camouflaged door encounter. Natalia, have you ever stumbled upon this story? It's kind of popular
No.
on Reddit.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So this story comes from December 22nd, 1989, in an incident that occurred near Pine Gap, which stands out as one of the most enigmatic UFO encounters linked to the facility. The story goes that around 4:30 a.m., 3 hunters were returning from an overnight expedition hunting in the outback when, without warning, they observed a camouflaged door seamlessly integrated into the terrain around them suddenly open up in front of their very eyes. From this concealed entrance, a massive metallic gray disc emerged, moving silently and hovering briefly above the Pine Gap base. In an instant, the disc ascended at an extraordinary speed, disappearing into the sky in the blink of an eye. Then the hidden door closed, blending back into the landscape behind it as if it had never been there to begin with. The witnesses, described as reliable yet hesitant to speak about their experience, reported this encounter to a local university professor who then relayed the account to UFO researcher John Lear. And while this incident has the most details, it's not the only account of a person or people who have claimed to see this quote-unquote camouflaged door. And this idea of a camouflaged door is so interesting because they're talking about, in some cases, people are saying doors are opening up from a mountain in the nearby mountain range. And in other cases, people are saying, no, it's like the sky and the mountains and the landscape is like a screen. It opens up like a screen,
Like
and something comes
Looney
out of it.
Tunes? Like Wile E. Coyote style?
Right, like you're cutting a door in our very universe, and something is
Right.
just coming out of it.
That is crazy. Which makes you wonder, is the Australian outback even real? It's like,
Is our world even real? Like, do we
Right.
live in a simulation?
Literally. Yeah. I mean, I guess it could be like just a giant screen, right? Like a giant screen that's painted to look like the countryside, that's painted to look like the outback. And so from far away, because people don't ever get close to it, that they think, oh, it's just more outback. But in reality, it's like a secret base or an alien wormhole or something. I don't know. That's crazy to me.
It's a really cool visual
Mhm.
to have. Imagine if in your room right now that you're recording in, all of a sudden just this black outline starts forming in the air in your
Wow.
studio and it opens up with a portal. I mean, I can only describe it as a portal to another world. So in another one of these incidents coming from 1980, 2 Northern Territory police officers reported witnessing a camouflaged door opening in the landscape before releasing several bathtub-shaped objects that silently traversed the Pine Gap base before vanishing into a dark opening in the hillside. The police officers were part of a search operation for a missing child and were hiking the area along the Pine Gap facility when they saw a dark line forming in front of them. It was described as if someone was cutting or drawing a door out of the environment that then opened and pushed out several objects that floated calmly toward the Pine Gap base. As the objects got closer to the base, the police officers witnessed a black hole appearing in one of the hills that then sucked the objects into it before again closing. Within seconds, both the camouflage doorway that had opened in front of them and the black hole in the distant mountain had both closed with no sign of them ever having existed. Although both police officers would speak of their sightings to researchers, it remains a mystery as to just what they may have seen. In an article by UFO journalist Christy Verismo called Pine Gap's Hidden and Covert Secrets, she writes about other UFO stories and sightings to come out of the Pine Gap area. In 1975, for example, a large white object about the size of one of the facility's radar domes suddenly lifted off the ground and then vanished into the sky above. Other encounters are even stranger. In 1973, a cartographer camping in the area while creating detailed maps for the Australian government witnessed a powerful blue beam of light shoot upwards from Pine Gap at just after the stroke of midnight. A dull gray disc about 550 feet wide then hovered above the area with a faint yellow glow around its edges. First, a thin blue beam extended from the disc to the base, followed minutes later by a similar beam shooting back from the base to the disc. A golden beam of light then appeared right next to it. This back and forth continued for about 40 minutes before the witness reported that the disc lit up like a neon sign, wobbled, and then blasted straight upward into the sky.
Wow. Yeah, I wonder what it was doing. It was like they were sending signals back and forth. Maybe it was charging it. Maybe it was like, yeah, some sort of fuel, like electric fuel. You know, I don't know a lot about things, but I recently got an electric car, and I was surprised to find out that electric cars are actually way faster than gas cars. Did you know this?
Oh, interesting. No.
Yeah, I didn't know this either, because I guess with like a gas-powered vehicle, it's combustion. So you have to wait for like the combustion to occur. Like it has to kind of build up in the engine. But with electricity, it's instant. So like the cars are way faster, which is weird to me, because you would think, based off of at least like American propaganda, where they're like, American muscle cars, like the louder and stinkier it is, the better and faster it is. But it's actually like the opposite. The electric cars smoke the gas cars. So I wonder if it's like a different kind of fuel. Like, is it possible to send like a charge up? And I'm also thinking of like, I get laser hair removal. When they charge the laser, they like put it in this thing, and it's like, jit, 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 like you hear it like jolting, and I don't know exactly what's going on in the mechanism, but I'm imagining it's like sending shocks to it or something. So I wonder if maybe that's what the disc was doing.
That's a good idea. Yeah, because it's weird. It's like it's shooting down a beam of light. Then it disappears. That beam of light disappears. Then a beam of light is shooting up from the ground into it, and they were doing this for 40 minutes, back and forth, back and forth.
I don't know.
Very
I don't know.
strange. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, though. Maybe it was charging it.
Yeah, charge of some sort.
Or leaving information like download, upload, download, upload. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Wow. What if they're not Americans? What if they're just like aliens in the desert, and they told the Australians that they're Americans, and the Australians are like, you know, those Americans, they're kind of strange, and it's literally just aliens. That's like a Kangaroo
guys,
Jack.
have you
part
noticed
two.
that Americans are always moist, and they always blink with their third extra eyelid? Sometimes they beep when they get excited. Have you guys noticed that? God, Americans are so weird.
So strange.
In 1984, 5 people near the base saw military vehicles and groups of personnel in coveralls gathering by the domes. Suddenly, a massive, solid-looking golden beam of light shot up from the center of the base. It flickered and pulsed several times. Then, 5 objects that looked like stars approached, 4 in a diamond formation, and 1 cylinder-shaped craft trailing behind it. The smaller ones circled in tight loops, while blue light beams flashed between them and the ground. The golden beam of light then returned once more, and the objects began swirling around it before shooting off into the distance. Over the following days, witnesses reported seeing 7 more UFOs in the area.
I'm just picturing someone like going Super Saiyan, like inside Pine Gap. Like they're just like, and then like a huge beam of light just goes up to the ceiling. It's like Dragon Ball Z is real. Like that was actually a documentary. Dragon Ball Z was a documentary. Yeah, that's crazy to me. Wow. And they're just like all this UFO activity, and I've never even heard of this.
I know, I had never heard of Pine Gap until this year, and I was like, what the fuck? How have I never heard of this? We've heard of the NSA, we've heard of the Patriot Act, we've heard of Edward Snowden, we've heard of spying, like we've heard of Marilyn Monroe, we've heard of MK Ultra. Why have we never heard of Pine Gap? It does seem to be one of the best kept secrets, because even though there have been small little leaks here and there, the general population, at least in the US, is not aware of it. I don't know anyone that's aware of it. I asked my boyfriend, because he watches World War II, World War I, and Cold War documentaries all the time. It's like, have you ever heard of Pine Gap in Australia? And he was like, no, is that a forest? Like, he just had no clue what I was talking about. So it's interesting.
Here's the other weird thing is, are there pine trees in Australia? Does Australia have pine?
Yes, it does have pine trees, both native and introduced species.
So maybe Pine Gap means like, okay, this is like a gap between the trees or something. I don't know. I was trying to figure out what it means, Pine Gap.
Well, the valley that it was built in was called Pine Gap Valley.
Oh.
So I don't know why it was originally named Pine Gap Valley.
Okay, I
But
thought it was like
yeah, that's where it
code.
gets its name from. More sightings followed over the years. In one case, campers saw a silver-white ball of light flickering in the sky, which was then joined by more lights before vanishing. In 1998, a basketball-sized glowing silver object appeared in the sky and vanished heading south. During this event, a two-way radio that one of the campers was holding mysteriously failed, as if the UFO was interfering with the radio signals. Witnesses then saw 5 flickering lights arranged in a triangle pattern that faded away into the distance in front of them. Another report described 40 orange lights in 1996, arranged first in a perfect circle of 19, then into 2 straight lines. They hovered, shifted into a single line, and traveled west before disappearing. Around the same time, witnesses claimed to see a blue glowing craft land about 10 kilometers west of Alice Springs. It rose up into the air, revealing itself to be a disc of about 14 meters wide with a flat base and a rounded top. It hovered near a car with a humming, whirring sound and then flew off in the direction of Pine Gap, leaving the witnesses with the eerie feeling that they were being monitored.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sounding a lot like Dragon Ball Z. Okay, hold on. I need an ADHD break. Okay, guys, here's a crazy controversial thing that I'm like predicting is going to happen. This is reminding me because it's like spying, right? And they're talking about like, I don't know, like changing public perception or whatever. I am predicting that there is going to be conflict with us and India, like within the next 2 years or something, because my social media lately has been flooded with like anti-Indian propaganda or like just, you know, like videos of like people in India and then like everyone's commenting and like, oh, Indians are the worst and just like listing off like all the reasons why they're bad. And I was like, this is crazy that this is just like on social media and this like is everyone's just like watching this right now. I feel like it's a psyop. I feel like we're going to have conflict with India. And so I wonder if Pine Gap is like doing stuff like that. Like, are they just like making reels in there? Like how instead of like pushing forward like bot content or like AI that like is, you know, that's probably what it is. Instead, they're just like doing TikTok dances like it's like CIA agents in Australia and they have like big sound sets and stuff. I don't know. Just a thought.
Well, allegedly they have this giant room inside of Pine Gap that's just wall-to-wall computers. Like almost like a NASA facility. You know those old movies where you would watch I think Space Cowboys is one of them where it's like ground control and it's just a bunch of people with computers, or like in Archer where the IT guys that are all like maladjusted and kind of schlubby are sitting in front of their computers eating sub sandwiches and it's just rows of computers. I guess that is rumored to be what one of the rooms in Pine Gap looks like, which people assume is because they're sorting through these massive amounts of surveillance data. But could it actually be that they're just tweeting from their facility propaganda?
Yeah.
Who is to say? Like we said earlier, Project Mockingbird, we're not sure if it's still going on or not, where the government is trying to control what we consume in the media and spread propaganda that way.
It's definitely
Who knows,
still going
guys?
on.
That's for a different episode topic, right? But to bring it back to Pine Gap, there are even claims that a man was taken aboard a UFO and brought to an underground base beneath Pine Gap, where he says military personnel were working alongside extraterrestrials as part of some massive interstellar alliance. So you said earlier as a joke, what if the quote unquote Americans are just aliens? But according to this one guy who says he got abducted, so like, can we trust him? I don't know, guys. But he says he got abducted by a UFO in the Australian outback. It took him into a secret part of Pine Gap that is underground, and he saw like aliens in lab coats working with Australians in lab coats, working with Americans in lab coats as part of some sort of interstellar alliance. He does not say how he escaped, so I don't know that part of the story, but they took him there for reasons unknown.
Yeah. I mean, I try to think like, okay, if there was like an interstellar alliance or whatever, I guess they would be doing stuff like that, right? Like just like wearing uniforms and stuff. I don't know. It's hard for me to like picture an interstellar alliance because I would be like, what do the aliens like care about us, right? Like their technology must be so advanced. Why would they even want to spend time with us? Like we can barely hang out with people like 5 or 6 years younger than us because we're like, the amount of information I have learned in 5 years has allowed me to no longer relate to this person anymore. So like now multiply that by infinity. Like these people don't know shit. And we have to hang out with them. It's terrible.
Yeah. Have you watched Three Body Problem, which
No.
is a show on Netflix or Hulu? I don't remember. Okay. No spoilers, guys, but a lot of people think that Three Body Problem is soft disclosure. The government creates these alien shows showing what's actually happening or a piece of what's actually happening to get the public used to the idea. And in that show, the idea is that the aliens are coming from a planet that got destroyed and they're looking for a new planet to populate. And the only one that they've been able to find that's suitable is Earth. And so some people think that's why they're here. If they are indeed here, this is a conspiracy theory, right? So going along with this theory, people think that if they are here, they're trying to slowly get us used to their technology so that they can modify the planet to be hospitable for them because their old planet got destroyed.
Oh. You know what's weird? If that is soft disclosure, there's like an animated movie. I think it's like Pixar or something that's on Netflix right now. It's called Home. And Rihanna voices the main character, but it's like the same idea. It's like aliens are coming to Earth because their home planet was destroyed or like not good enough or whatever. And they like take the human populations and put them out in the fucking Australian outback. Now that I think about it. Yeah, they like literally like make all of these different like little societies for all of the people and they put them out in the middle of Australia. I'm pretty sure that's where it is.
Oh my
They like
God.
take over the rest of the world.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That's interesting. I feel like that needs to be an episode you do. I know you don't typically cover alien stuff, but that sounds like a good conspiracy. Getting kids comfortable with aliens, especially like Lilo and Stitch, they're redoing.
Yeah. So wait, the episode is
E.T.
just me telling people the plot of Home, the movie. Hey guys, I
Yeah.
just saw this movie this weekend. Let me tell you about it. Okay, sit down. Yeah. It's actually really good.
All right. I'm gonna have to watch it. I do like Rihanna, so I'll give it a watch and let you know if I think it's true. I'm sure it is true. Okay, so now a different aspect to this conspiracy theory about Pine Gap related to UFOs is that some researchers who have looked into the Pine Gap phenomenon and different witnesses who claim to have been camping or hiking or walking around the perimeter and seen these weird things, or people that live in Alice Springs that have seen these weird things in the sky going over to Pine Gap. A lot of these researchers believe that Pine Gap serves as a navigation beacon for UFOs, noting that many of the crafts appear to travel in perfect straight lines directly to and from the facility. So people wonder, could Pine Gap and these strange beams of light that they're shooting up into the sky actually be some sort of beacon for interstellar travelers entering and exiting Earth's atmosphere for whatever reason?
Oh, like a lighthouse type thing.
Like a lighthouse, totally.
Wow.
Author and former U.S. Air Force employee Stan Deyo has put forward even wilder theories. He suggests that Pine Gap houses a 5-mile deep borehole that acts as a gigantic underground antenna capable of broadcasting very low frequency electricity, or VLF. According to Deyo, the facility might be generating a resonating energy field that wraps around the planet, reaching up to 250 miles high in altitude. He even speculates that the site could host a massive nuclear reactor powering high-energy systems such as a death ray or plasma cannon.
A plasma cannon or death ray? Those are like real scientific terms for these things?
I don't know, Natalia. This is a conspiracy theory.
Okay. Yeah, in theory, if the death ray existed, is what they're saying, it might be here.
Yeah, plasma-powered cannons do exist, apparently, and I did not have a lot of time to look into it, but there's one called the Lorentz Plasma Cannon, and they're experimental weapons that use electrical energy to accelerate a projectile by generating and expanding a plasma discharge within the barrel. I don't understand what any of that means, which is why I originally was not going to talk about this.
That's like literally like in Halo. They have plasma guns. Was Halo soft disclosure? Wow.
Wow.
Another ADHD thought, you guys. I really love sweatsuits. As you can see, I've worn this a million times. If you watch our Patreon, you've seen my vlogs. I'm literally always wearing this dragon sweatsuit. If somebody could please make a Halo themed sweatsuit for me to wear, that also somewhere says soft disclosure on it, I would really appreciate that. I think that's a good idea. Okay, now Allie is sending me something. Whoa, this is fucking nuts. It says firing the Lorentz plasma cannon, and it's a video on YouTube. This is insane. Wow. Okay, I'm clicking this. Oh my God. It's literally like science fiction, you guys. It's literally like a science fiction. It's a lightning comes out of this giant gun type ray looking thing, and it just like a lightning strike comes out of it. That is crazy to me. I don't know why I was just like straight up picturing Halo. Like I was picturing like a little plasma gun. I wasn't picturing like a fucking, like a tank. I don't know. That thing is huge. That gun, or what, the cannon, I guess you could call it. It's gigantic.
Just seems like it can't be real, but then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, it is real. Like, it seems like it shouldn't be real, that there's just a bunch of white domes in the middle of the Australian outback where Americans are plotting to spy on people. But there is. I'm just learning new things every day. By the way, if you Google wormholes and Pine Gap, I just want to let everyone know nothing comes up. Literally nothing comes up. If you do wormholes in quotation marks and then you do Pine Gap in quotation marks, nothing comes up on Google. But if you go to DuckDuckGo and type in that exact same search, you can find all kinds of articles and message boards where people are talking about this. For example, in an article for Listverse by journalist Marcus Loth, a few other truly insane encounters are shared, such as this next one from 1984. Loth writes, quote, "Perhaps because of the nature of their work in the Australian government, the 5 witnesses of a 1984 encounter at Pine Gap preferred to tell of their incident anonymously. The leader of the group had been receiving increasing reports of UFO sightings in the skies over Pine Gap in the weeks leading up to his encounter. One message, however, was more mysterious than the rest. The witness purportedly received a message advising him that, quote, something big was going to happen at Pine Gap in the coming days. Acting on this news, the 5 men split themselves up into 2 different search party groups, using 2 different vehicles. They approached the base from different positions. Once there, they essentially kept a stakeout of the grounds. For the first 3 days, they didn't see anything interesting, anything of any note at all. On the 4th night, however, that changed. Several large military vehicles began ferrying large groups of workers in coveralls to the large radomes on the base. As this was taking place, a pillar of light suddenly shot upward from the ground to the sky, and a strange cloud started forming high up above the pillar. When it vanished, 5 crafts took the place of the cloud, making their way down towards the base. Again, 4 diamond-shaped UFOs and 1 cigar-shaped UFO were witnessed, and once they were over the base, the pillar of light appeared once more, this time from the craft above to the ground below. This went on for several minutes, all while the strange cloud above continued to form, reform, disappear, and reform. In a moment, the 5 craft had vanished.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like, I don't know how to describe what I'm thinking. All of these UFO encounters that are at Pine Gap, they all have some things in common. It's like light rays shooting up, shooting down, and like some sort of synchronized
Dance.
Dance with like
crafts.
multiple crafts, where like a lot of the UFO sightings on this podcast that we've talked about from the Cold War that we've seen in the United States are usually like one craft shows up, it does something, and then it leaves. Or like you see a craft, go. It's not like a craft shows up, all these other crafts show up, and they like do this sort of synchronized exchange of energy or exchange of information. I don't know. They're evolving.
They're evolving. Yeah, it doesn't seem random, I guess, is the thing we can say.
Right.
You know, I don't understand plasma rays. I don't understand death rays, but I could imagine, you know, if somebody told me, hey, if you shoot a ball of plasma at a person, plasma will shoot off of them as they die. I'd be like, all right, makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is if those balls of plasma are then dancing around in a triangle that turns into a line, that turns into a circle, that turns into a square, that then turns into a cloud, that then turns into a beam of light, that then goes away. It seems like it has some sort of intelligent design behind it rather than just being like a random byproduct of a radar or a laser beam.
I also don't understand, like, plasma is in your blood, but it's also like a cannon, like for electricity. It doesn't make sense. Actually, I had a boyfriend once. He was like a scientist, and he told me that the moisture that lubricates your vagina is also plasma. It has plasma in it. So this plasma, it can do so much.
Wait, are squirters, they have weapons of mass destruction in their vaginas?
I don't know if that guy was telling the truth or not. He was a real scientist, but he was like failing out of school and like did not get a recommendation. I guess like after you finish science school, look guys, I don't know what it's called, but I don't want to like dox this person, but real science school, you like are a scientist, you have to get recommended to be a scientist like after grad school or whatever, and he did not get the recommendation. So he had to like go on doing other things that he was like not recommended to be a scientist. So maybe he didn't know what he was talking about is my point.
Is that the guy that also was like trying to blame you for the fact that he didn't get a recommendation or something where he was like, you distracted me or whatever, that's why?
Probably, but I probably definitely distracted him for sure. Like, but is it my fault that he allowed me to distract him? No.
Yeah, okay, moving on, because I don't know. I'm assuming the type of plasma in our blood is different than the type of plasma in a plasma gun, but I can't be sure. So we have to move on. In 1975, a private plane flew near the restricted airspace around Pine Gap, and the pilot and several passengers on board were curious about the mysterious facility below, so they kept circling it just outside the restricted airspace. They kept their eye on it, hoping to catch a glimpse of something unusual, and they didn't have to wait long, because without warning, a large white object shot up from the base at an incredible speed. It moved so fast that by the time the group registered what they were seeing, the object had already vanished into the sky. When the plane landed, the pilot reported the sighting, and not long after, both he and his passengers were asked to remain at the airport so investigators could question them. According to their accounts, when these officials arrived, they told the witnesses to keep quiet about what they had seen and to forget it had ever happened. It is unclear who exactly these investigators were representing, and some people even wonder if they could have been the Men in Black, which we have covered on a separate episode 19 of our show for those interested in the Men in Black. But these accounts contribute to the mystique surrounding Pine Gap, which is often dubbed Australia's Area 51, as I said earlier. And all of these accounts also fuel ongoing speculation about its operations and potential involvement with UFOs, or now they're called UAPs. But we're not quite done yet, because there is still a few unhinged conspiracies coming your way. As a child of the 90s and 2000s, I've never had the best relationship with food. Back in the day, nobody cared how strong or healthy you were. It was all about the number on your scale. I will still never forgive People magazine for trying to make me think that Jessica Simpson was ever overweight. What the fuck was that about? Trying to unlearn that mess takes years. And even though we've gotten better about it in 2025, it's definitely overwhelming and hard to know where to start when you're trying to get healthy. That's why Nat and I are excited to be partnering with Faye. Faye is a revolutionary platform that connects you with your own personal registered dietitian, making expert nutrition guidance accessible and affordable. So whether you're looking for help losing weight, improving your general health, or managing a health condition, Faye has a dietitian that's right for you. I'd always wanted a dietitian. This is a true story. Both dietitians in my area are not taking new clients. So I thought I was just shit out of luck until Faye came along. I started with Faye this May, and now I'm having weekly check-ins with a registered dietitian who is totally invested in my health journey. The best part? All dietitians on Faye accept health insurance with over 700 plus insurance plans accepted, so you'll likely pay $0 out of pocket. Yes, that's right, $0. I couldn't believe it when I finished my first appointment and got a receipt for $0. But don't take my word for it. User Aaron E. said, quote, I meet with my nutritionist every other week and insurance covers all of it. I didn't even know I had this as a benefit. I wish I knew this sooner. End quote. Same, Aaron. Same. Faye has dietitians that specialize in over 30 areas, including weight loss, sports nutrition, women's health like PCOS and postpartum, gut health, eating disorders, and more. And meeting with a dietitian is so simple, with both virtual and in-person sessions available so you can experience whatever's most convenient for you. Having a personalized nutritionist used to cost big bucks, but not anymore with A. Listeners of Let's Get Haunted can qualify to see a registered dietitian for as little as $0 by visiting faynutrition.com/haunted. That's faynutrition.com/haunted. One last time, that's FAY nutrition.com/haunted. And make sure you use our URL so that they know that we sent you. And now back to your regularly scheduled haunting. Nat, do you know what CERN is? CERN?
No. Is it like a military thing?
CERN is a science lab in Europe, and at this lab, it's supposed to be super high tech, like cutting edge laboratory, cutting edge technology, and researchers there study the tiniest building blocks of the universe, things like atoms and particles that are even smaller than atoms. It's most famous for something called the Large Hadron Collider, which you've probably heard of before, which is a massive underground machine that smashes particles together at nearly the speed of light. By watching what happens in those collisions, scientists learn how the universe works at its most basic level, like what gives matter mass or how the universe began in the first place. While the work is highly technical, the goal is simple: to better understand the fundamental laws of nature. As with most things scientific that go way over my head, there are some pretty entertaining conspiracy theories surrounding the facility. For example, some people believe CERN is trying to open a literal portal to another universe, or even summon entities from another realm. Others think CERN is secretly working on time travel, or trying to summon the Antichrist, or even trying to destroy the universe on purpose.
Oh yeah. No, I think I know these type of people. These are the people who think like NASA is Satan, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess when you smash particles together at faster than the speed of light, which is what CERN is doing in this underground collider, you do have the potential to create black holes. So some people then take it a step further and they say, oh, they're trying purposefully to create a black hole to suck us all into it so that we'll be transported to another dimension. Or maybe they've already succeeded. And that's why everything seems so weird lately. And that's the reason for the Mandela effect. And that's the reason that it seems like we're living in the end times, or maybe the Antichrist is already here. Like, people really spin off in other directions. Again, CERN needs its own episode. But just like the conspiracy theories surrounding the belief that CERN is trying to open portals to other dimensions, Pine Gap has also been the center of some equally wild claims. Whatever a step past unhinged is, and I could not think of the word for it, this is it. Do you know what comes after unhinged? Like, we've got like
unwell.
Okay, unwell. All right, guys, we're about to enter unwell territory. We're about to get sick. Basically, there's a researcher and author named Richard Sauder who published a book called Underground Bases and Tunnels. In his book, he went so far as to say that Pine Gap operates in alternate dimensions. Sauder's claim involves time travel experiments and so-called super soldier programs where elite soldiers are allegedly trained in the future, then age reversed and sent back to the past to carry out missions. And he claims that this program is taking place on the wormhole that Pine Gap monitors.
Wait, why? Why would we send them to the future and then age reverse them to the past? Oh, because we're sending them and they're learning from people in the future are better at teaching? What? I don't understand.
Think about the technology we use currently for warfare. Now think about how good it's going to be in 1,000 years.
But can they bring the technology? Oh, so they're going to create the technology from the future in the past?
It's hard to follow because it's unwell. It's an unwell conspiracy theory. But the idea would be, let's say you have a soldier, he's super hot and ripped and like young and virile and has no pre-existing health conditions. He's the perfect specimen as far as we're concerned right now. Like great eyesight, perfectly able to distinguish different colored flags that the military waves around. You know,
Captain America.
Imagine Captain America. If you send him 1,000 years in the future through this portal at Pine Gap, this guy's alleging, Sauter, this author, is alleging that Pine Gap exists in multiple dimensions.
Okay.
So it always exists. So if you send it to the Pine Gap that exists 1,000 years in the future, the scientists there receive our perfect specimen, and they can perhaps modify him to be even superer, so that when you send him back to the past, he's now got built into his eye. He's got like a bionic eye that can see infrared, or he's got technology we can't even conceive of built into his body. And that's what makes him a super soldier.
Why is this like turning me on, sort of like thinking about Captain America, like getting outfitted with new technology in the future and then coming back, and he picks me out of everybody else. He chose me. I like that.
He picks like a penile implant that like turns his dick into a jackhammer. Yeah, it's like it's crazy what could be happening if Sauter is correct. Now, like we said, sickening, unwell, because now you're getting into the realm of eugenics, which is always very dicey, because the second you start modifying human beings, what are you editing out of the humans to create your so-called perfect specimen? It gets real dark real fast. But Sauter isn't alone in this weird fringe belief. And the fact that an American CIA agent used to be in charge of the facility isn't helping the allegations. Some of the more extreme conspiracy theories even place the CIA at the heart of time travel and interplanetary programs, with these quote-unquote super soldiers allegedly being trained at Pine Gap and then traveling through the wormholes on missions to Mars. Some people even think that these super soldiers might be the product of selective breeding between humans and aliens.
Wow. Okay, so from now on, whenever you see like a perfect specimen of a human, you're like, that's a super soldier for sure.
Right. Like he might have like 10% alien genome in his DNA, you know?
Wow. That's my favorite. The unwell thing I really like. Unfortunately, it's making a lot of sense to me.
It's about to get even more unwell, perhaps on life support at this point, intubated in the ICU type theory. Where did these allegations come from? According to Sauter, a whistleblower named Rich Hansen claimed he participated in one of these top secret programs and allegedly departed for Mars military service via a time portal located in Australia. And while this whistleblower, Rich Hansen, doesn't specifically say that the portal was at Pine Gap, it seems like if you're going to be leaving from a time portal in Australia, it's probably Pine Gap.
His name is Rich Handsome? Rich Handsome here to save the world and also whistleblow. Rich Handsome?
Rich Hansen, like the Hansen brothers.
Oh, okay.
But it does sound like Rich Handsome. It does sound like a fake name, for sure. Like, hi everyone, I'm Rich Handsome, the half-alien demigod. Come back to fuck your wife. I went to Mars, I went through the wormhole, I'm ready to go into your wife's wormhole. Rich Handsome, out.
It's too good, Rich Handsome. Wow, okay.
All right, as for the super soldier allegation, so that takes care of maybe part of where the wormhole allegations are coming from. But let's go more into the super soldier side of things. I was shocked to find that super soldier conspiracy theories have been around for decades. And this topic really needs its own 1 hour long episode, but most countries have publicly discussed the idea of trying to create a super soldier. And they describe that in different ways. Some countries say, oh, our ideal candidate for our military is going to be a super soldier, meaning that they're unfeeling, they're really strong, they are kind of sociopathic, they have cat-like reflexes, they don't feel bad when they shoot people, they're the pinnacle of health. And like that seems more realistic, right? You could probably find somebody that meets those requirements.
Yeah.
But as we learned in our Russian sleep experiment and Human Z episode that we did a year or two ago, there are also countries who have dabbled with the idea of directly affecting the DNA of their soldiers to make them have superhuman abilities. In the example we covered in the Human Z experiments episode, Russia during the Soviet Union was literally thinking about, and they say they never did it, but how do we know? Literally thinking about implanting chimpanzee embryos into human women, or taking chimpanzee semen and a human woman egg and then combining them and then gestating it inside of a human. And now you've got a human Z. So it's going to be like so strong. It's going to be able to just rip the arms off of enemies. It can take so many bullets and keep running.
But
and
it's also
like
just going to be like, ooh, me want banana. Like, you're going to be like, human Z, go and infiltrate that base over there. Get past the machine guns and dodge the drones or whatever. And then it's going to be like running as fast as it can. And then it's just going to get distracted by a fucking banana. It's going to be like, oh, why? The tracking is showing that human Z is going past where he needs to go. He's actually heading towards the cafeteria. What are you doing, human Z? What are you doing? And he's just like,
look, no one ever said it was going to be a perfect plan, but it seems like countries all over the world have at one time or another kind of talked about this idea. The Nazis talked about it when they were doing their twin experiments. They were trying to figure out different ways to gruesomely modify the human body. Who is to say that it's not continuing in private? That's what this completely unwell in respiratory failure conspiracy theory is alleging. Like on its last legs, it's a zombie now. It's been resurrected. That's what this theory is. And sometimes these discussions, like I said, are done in secret between countries. Sometimes they're done in the public. And usually we as the public view them as more of a thought exercise rather than a real thing that people are participating in. But there are some people who claim to have escaped from the super soldier program. And I'm going to send you one of these videos about one such case that was created by the BBC, did this documentary.
okay.
And
This better be like some super, like this, I need to see like Thor. Like, if this person is claiming to be a super soldier, they better have like an 8-pack and like, I don't know. If an American eagle, like a bald eagle, was a person, that's what it needs to look like in order for me to believe it. Let's see. Okay, I'm clicking on a link Allie just sent me. It is taking me to a website called bbc.com. I'm hoping that is the British broadcast channel and not bigblackcock.com.
no guarantees.
It is buffering.
The title of this video, for anyone interested, is Fractured Part 4. And then the title of the video is Death of a Conspiracy Theorist. My son's laptop was wiped.
Max Spies was a conspiracy theorist. He died in July 2016 on a sofa in Poland.
March of 2008, some strange things started happening to me. I had some extremely vivid dreams, and then I got taken out of my body and shown that my life as I thought it was not what I quite thought they were.
Max talked about super soldiers, he talked about deep underground bases, he talked about Nightmare Hall, where they'd be making all these types of creatures in the labs in Dulce and in this country. The creation of a interdimensional or astral war or army.
What did Max think happened to him when he was a child?
Max was part of a group of children, about 40 children, who were treated in very special ways.
Okay, here Mars is talking about the super soldier program that Max thought he was part of. Max believed that his mind had been altered as a fetus and could be controlled to fight in other dimensions.
But they were being trained to survive an enemy that they needed to be able to conquer, and that's what he was fighting.
Okay, so to recap that.
So there's this guy named Max Spear, and he is a well-known, he's a very vocal conspiracy theorist. He claims that as a child, he was taken and turned into a super soldier. He doesn't specify exactly what happened to him, but he claims that the government, and this is in the UK, that the government altered the way his brain works. They can control his brain. Now, a lot of people say, well, yeah, these are common delusions when people have schizophrenia. They think the government's after them. So that's what he was formally diagnosed with. But he claims he survived a secret government super soldier program and then was found deceased under mysterious circumstances. And his mom was on the phone with somebody who was in the house while he was deceased. And she could hear all these people in the background yelling about, like, you have to get the water, you have to get the vinegar, you have to get the milk, all these different weird things going on in the background. She's like, I don't know what's going on. And he was in that house deceased with a bunch of people that she doesn't know who they were for like a day before EMS finally arrived. And then one of his friends says, oh, well, it's because the Russians have done all these experiments on the human body. And when you have a super soldier that's been altered by the government, you have 6 hours that you can harvest the soul and put it into another super soldier body. So that's what happened to him. And then when she got all of his personal effects back, when his mother got all of his personal effects back, the phone had been wiped clean. The SIM card was removed prior to her receiving it, and she doesn't know why or who took it. And then the laptop was wiped clean as well. And she said
weird.
that he had a bunch of files allegedly on the super soldier program that he had been writing and documenting and researching during his lifetime. And then it was all wiped when she got it back.
That's weird. I mean, you would think if it was just a guy with schizophrenia or whatever, they wouldn't like wipe his phone or his laptop.
His formal reason for death that the autopsy decided on was death by Xanax overdose. And so skeptics might argue, well, he was already acting unwell. Some of his friends knew he was acting unwell, and that's why they were reaching out to different doctors and to see who could help him. And so maybe they were paranoid after he died and removed his SIM card and wiped his laptop. I don't know. But we're going to take yet another detour here and get a little bit more unhinged, but in a different way. After World War II, the U.S. brought over German scientists, engineers, and technicians to advance American military and aerospace capabilities under the codename Operation Paperclip. We know this really happened, and it was kept secret for a long time because many of these German scientists were part of the Nazi Party. The endeavor was a huge success, with several ballistic missiles and rockets being developed that otherwise probably wouldn't have happened, and Operation Paperclip is touted as being one of the main reasons the U.S. won the space race. Taking a step back from the confirmed parts of Operation Paperclip for a second, author Tim Schwartz claims that there's a connection with Pine Gap here. According to Schwartz, some of the Nazi scientists brought to the U.S. under Project Paperclip allegedly began working on a hypersonic aircraft called the AURORA, using back-engineered UFO technology held at Area 51. This top-secret triangular craft, said to fly over 8,000 miles per hour, supposedly travels between Pine Gap in Australia, Area 51 in Nevada, and RAF Machrihanish in Scotland, and even an undisclosed atoll in the Pacific, refueling mid-air with liquid methane and leaving behind sonic booms known as skyquakes. The aircraft is described as having 4 lights arranged in a diamond shape, and its extreme speed supposedly makes it impossible to intercept with missiles. Some sources even claim that Aurora activity and research have since shifted to Pine Gap now that Area 51 has gotten so much publicity in American news, it can no longer be used for the Aurora project. And there are also allegations that a new Area 51 is currently being built in Utah, keeping the Aurora program alive and well, hidden in plain sight. What's interesting about this that I wanted to bring up is you said, well, maybe these beams of light are some sort of refueling of the craft. Some people are saying they're seeing these lights in a triangle formation. Could it be the back-engineered Aurora supersonic aircraft that was created at Area 51 using former Nazi scientists under Operation Paperclip that had these crashed UFO pieces that they were trying to figure out how they go together, and they created this triangular craft that now goes on a loop between all these different locations that allegedly have super soldiers and portals and interdimensional time travel going on at it? Who is to say?
Wow. Yes, I think so. Wow, that's crazy. I'm like, my wheels are spinning right now thinking about this and like wondering, because a lot of people, when they say they saw a UFO, they saw like a triangular pattern in the sky. I wonder if they're seeing the aurora.
Who is to say? This is unconfirmed that it exists. There are some patents online you can find, but to have a patent, you don't need to prove that your invention actually works. You just need to have a novel idea, and then you can type it up and submit it. And so a lot of people that have looked at these TR3B, which is what it's called, triangular aircraft patents, say, yeah, this would never work. It's just some dude that wants to have the patent in case somebody ever makes one, then he can say he had it first, and then they might owe him royalties. Finally, we reach our final story linked to Pine Gap. Natalia, have you ever heard of the Min Min lights?
Min Min? Is that like Thai?
This is Australian.
Oh,
so
no.
The Min lights could honestly, again, be a whole other hour-long episode by themselves, but for now, we're just going to briefly talk about it as it relates to Pine Gap. The Min lights are a mysterious phenomenon reported in the outback of Australia, especially in remote areas like Queensland, the Northern Territory where Pine Gap is located, and parts of Western Australia. These lights are usually described as glowing orbs, often white, blue, or green, that hover just above the ground and seem to follow travelers, only to suddenly disappear when approached. Sightings go back over a century and continue to this day, with many reports coming from people driving at night or camping in isolated areas of the outback. The indigenous communities of Australia have long spoken of the Min lights, with stories passed down for generations. For many, these lights are considered spiritual in nature, sometimes seen as messengers or omens, and are treated with deep respect rather than fear. Interpretations vary between language groups, but what's consistent is the belief that the lights are not to be interfered with. In this respect, when we talk about the indigenous view of the Min lights, the Min lights are not considered ghost stories in the way that outsiders might describe them when they see them. Rather, they're considered part of a broader worldview tied to land, ancestors, and the spiritual realm. Interestingly, certain indigenous communities have reported that although the presence of the Min lights predates European colonization on the continent, the lights have gotten more and more frequent as Australia's population increases. There are many theories about what causes the Min lights. Skeptics often chalk them up to optical illusions, such as reflections of headlights bending over the horizon due to a natural phenomenon called Fata Morgana, which we talked about in your episode on the Lost Dutchman's Treasure.
Yeah.
Or skeptics also say it could be gases like phosphine released by decomposing organic material on the ground. Others think they might be misunderstood wildlife or even hallucinations brought on by isolation or fatigue, but believers say the lights behave far too intelligently, seeming to follow or avoid people in very deliberate ways that can't be explained away by natural causes. In an article written by Dr. John Pettigrew of the Vision, Touch, and Hearing Research Center at the University of Queensland, Pettigrew explains that he himself has seen the lights on several occasions and can confirm that they are real, though he does believe there must be a natural explanation for them. There have been many reported sightings of Min lights near Pine Gap, with some theorists linking the lights to the strange electromagnetic activity rumored to take place around the facility. Witnesses in the area have described the lights hovering in silence before suddenly darting away, too fast for any known aircraft. Whether you think they're spirits, science, or surveillance, one thing is certain. The Min lights remain one of the outback's most haunting and enduring mysteries. And I have a video of the Min lights for you, Natalia, that somebody took on their cell phone.
Dad, no, we have to keep driving.
Oh my God.
We're not stopping. And it's gone again.
It's gone again. Shep, I'm really freaked out. It's gone
Dad,
again.
we're really scared.
It keeps chasing us.
What I said?
No.
Definitely not.
It's back again. It's back again.
Oh my God. Where is it now?
Right in the background.
Yes. It went up in the sky.
It went up in the sky. When I said I wanted to see one, I didn't.
We have to put this video in this episode because it's just like the most beautiful Australian accents that are just chewing on all the vowels and like just saying super Australian stuff. And it just warms my heart. Something about those Australians being like, oh no, like I just love it. And it's giving me life right now. So this video, it looks like they're in a car or something. And there is like a light in the sky. There's like literally a light and it looks weird. It looks like an angel. Like it's giving me spiritual feelings for some reason.
Yeah. And in the comments of that video, if you expand them, there's just tons of people saying, I've seen these before. I saw it in Victoria. I saw it in Queensland. I saw it in the outback. I saw it in the Northern Territory. And so this is like very much a known thing that happens in Australia. And there are also some accounts from Reddit that I pulled here of people seeing these strange Min lights near Pine Gap. And some of them say, well, I think that I actually saw a UFO and I think the Min lights are a natural phenomenon. Or some people say, no, I think it's the Min lights and it's an angel, it's a spirit. Like nobody knows what it is, but there are too many people who have seen them and videoed them in order for it to be fake. So this first one I'm going to read to you comes comes from user Eshatoa, who says, quote, I used to work in remote Aboriginal communities around the area of Pine Gap. In 2012, I was camping in the bush with a friend on a very remote part of the region. We witnessed a bright orange object come out of a water hole or take off from the opposite bank. It was hard to tell. We watched the object rise slowly into the sky where it proceeded to move extremely quickly across the horizon and back again. It would sometimes disappear and reappear. We watched it for about 30 minutes before it disappeared completely. Whilst I was in disbelief, my friend was not in shock. He was somewhat of a more experienced bushman than I, and at the time, he'd disclosed that this was his third time that he'd seen such a thing in the area, including one occasion where he believed an object was intentionally following him to taunt him. I refused to share my story for 10 years, and have only been comfortable recently talking about it with the recent developments globally with alien disclosure. People must understand just how barren and remote these areas are. You can travel for days along abandoned tracks and not see a single other person. The night sky is so detailed with stars, it is like being in outer space itself. You feel incredibly insignificant underneath it. This other quote that I pulled comes from user criticalbeautiful631, who said, quote, the quote-unquote debunk theory was that they were car lights that couldn't be seen refracting from the clouds above. I accepted that for a while, but couldn't shake off the reality of connection and communication. If you want to see them, go for a long drive in the middle of nowhere in a grounded headspace with your open mind, and they might connect with you. So now we've reached the end of my episode. That is the tale of Pine Gap. And there are a couple unconfirmed allegations that I just wanted to throw out there that before I ask for your final thoughts. Most of the employees at Pine Gap allegedly live in the nearby town of Alice Springs. And according to locals who do not work at Pine Gap, but who have interacted with these people before, if you ever meet an employee of the facility and ask them what they do, allegedly they all respond in the exact same way. They all just say, I'm a gardener.
That is so creepy.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's really creepy. I do not like that at all. I'm a gardener.
Right? Like, what the fuck does that mean? And then the last unconfirmed allegation that I have is that apparently this base 100% knows what happened to MH370, the Malaysian Airlines flight that disappeared, because I guess, like we said, they're sweeping the Earth constantly with this technology to listen in on different radio signals, so they know where all planes are at all times. And if anyone knows what happened to MH370, people say it's Pine Gap.
Have you seen that one video that's supposedly of MH370 disappearing, and it's like a plane, a satellite sees it, and then like a bunch of lights go around it, and then a big flash happens and like the plane literally disappears? Is that real?
There's a whole subreddit dedicated to that video. And the short answer is I don't know if it's real or not. The debunkers say it's not real because you can find, I forget what website it is, but there's a website that has different images and videos that you can use in your videos if you buy a license for it. And somebody found the exact cloud pattern that's in that footage. But people also say if you look at the date that it was uploaded, it looks like somebody tried to go in retroactively and change the date of the upload of that cloud file to look like it was before MH370 happened. But actually, none of the other files have this same signature, so maybe it was just a cover-up. So long answer short, short answer long. I don't fucking know. I have no clue if it's real or not. But if anyone knows what happened to MH370, it is the good alien folks at Pine Gap living in their little underground bases with their portals and wormholes and UFOs. So, Natalia, I now ask you for your final thoughts on this episode.
Well, I learned about my new favorite thing, which is super soldiers. And I don't know why I'm just like really into that idea. I think it's great, and I feel like we need them. Why just go public with it? Let's just all make superhumans. Like, I am ready. Yeah, that's my new favorite thing. Like, I'm literally obsessed with that idea of super soldiers, and I just want to go on Google and like type in super soldiers and just like find all of the most like Chad looking people, like Sigma, like, you know, the people that have like the crazy fucking jaw muscles that are like, I want to find people like that are just like, I'm a whistleblower. I'm actually a super soldier. My jaw muscles can chew through steel, you know, like, and yeah, I'm very much attracted to that idea of people going to the future to be trained and like getting outfitted with better like organic parts on their body and then coming back and being demigods that fuck your wife.
Yeah. What do you think's going on at Pine Gap? Like, what theory do you think? You can either choose the most fun or the most likely. I don't care.
The thought that CERN is like trying to make a black hole to like send us all to a different dimension was new to me. And so I'm kind of stuck on that idea. I like the idea that Pine Gap exists in every dimension. So like you could travel to it in the future and in the past. And I like the idea that they are like doing weird, experiments trying to like open up portals and things like that. And it kind of makes sense to me because if you were doing some crazy stuff like that, where better to put it than in the middle of Australia?
Great point. Yeah, something is certainly afoot out there because there's no way that you invest millions of dollars to keep that program running so many years after it was initially built if it's not doing something super important. And there's also no way as a country you would allow another country to have their own basically miniature country where they're just doing whatever the fuck they want to do within the bounds of your land. There's no way you allow that unless it's important, is my opinion, right? Like there's no way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well,
no, I agree.
It's time for the end of our episode. Nat, would you like to do the sign off?
I would. BRB, gonna go find myself a super soldier who's also a demigod that's back to fuck my husband.
Bye. Hey Haunties, it's time for closing credits. Sources for this week's episode include Wikipedia, Listverse, newspapers.com, The Universal Seduction, Volume 2, Pine Gap, Australia, Its Hidden and Covert Secrets by Christy Verismo, a YouTube video of the Min Min Lights called Min Min Lights Video and Footage uploaded to YouTube by T. Shepard. Also, the redacted version of the Pine Gap Treaty I found online at live/production.wcms.abc/cdn.net.au. There's also a helpful Reddit thread on r/UFOB that was posted by the Terror Dome. That's terror with a 3 instead of an E. The title of the post is What is Really Going On at Pine Gap, Australia? Also, I bought a book on Google Play called Project Rainfall by author Tim Gilling. Hold on, my computer froze. We're getting hacked. There's also an article that was published to metro.co.uk called Who Killed Conspiracy Theorist Max Spears? And that article was written by Rob Waugh, I think is how you pronounce his last name. I'm not sure. Maybe Woe? Rob Woe? Rob Waugh? Rob Woe? Woe? Rob? W-A-U-G-H? Whoa? Wah. Rob Waugh. There's also a scholarly journal that is called The Min Min Light and the Fata Morgana, an optical account of a mysterious Australian phenomenon by John D. Pettigrew, published to the Clinical and Experimental Optometry Journal. And finally, wanted to give a shout out to a podcast that I did not even realize was a podcast. I had just bought their book at Barnes & Noble years ago, and then I realized they are a podcast. But I read a little blurb in their book about Pine Gap, and I wanted to give them a shout out. Their show is called Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. And next, it's time for our weekly shout outs. This month, we would love to give a warm, heartfelt thank you to our Patreon donors who donated to us in the month of March 2025, letters G through M. If you'd like to become a donor and hear your name shouted out on a future episode, head over to patreon.com/letsgethaunted, where you will not only get a shout out, but you'll also get access to episode extras, mini-sodes, personal hauntings, live streams, and much, much more. This week, we'd love to thank Gathy with a G, Ghost of 7-Eleven, Grace M, Grandma Painter, Haley C, Haley L, Hollier L, Hannah RK, Haley G, Haley A, Hexylvania Snow, Hugo A, Hunter S, Ileana RN, Ileana RN, Inky Pop Art, It's Kelsifer, Yvonne L, Ivan L, Jackie L, Jacob, JDKP, Jameet, Jamie F, Jamie P, Jasmine B, Jasmine C, Jason G, JM, Jamie L, Jen M, Jenna M, Jenna S, Jennifer C, Jenny B, Jenny Squiddy, Jesselyn, Jessie, Joey Ann Jessie, Joanna H, Joanna H, Joaquin E, Jocelyn, Johan S, Johan S, Jordan F, Jordan L, Jose El Krampus P, Jose P, Jules the Ghoul, Julia C, Julia M, Julie B, Julie C, Juliet H, Justin M, Justine D, Kate M, Karen H, Karen K, Karina C, Corinna C, Carly K, Carly M, Kat, Kat and L is the malice, Katie Cat, Katie T, K to the win, Kayla M, Kayla P, Kayak, Keese P, Kelsey, Kelsey K, Kelsey E, Kelsey L, Kelsey H, Kendra, Kimberly F, Kindred and Amber, Kinsley M, Kittenish Kate, Corky, Corky M, Kristen K, Lacey M, Laura the Lauren, Laura Bakes, Lauren B, Lori, I Die Bug 979, ID Bug 979, Lidybug, oh, is that a lowercase L? Oh shit, I bet you that's a lowercase L. Ladybug 979, Leah R 1991, Leanna BC, Lena, Lena, Leonardo P, Exotronic, Lil Dilda, Lily Bones, Lily Bell, Lily Silly, Lindsay M, Lindsay S, Lisa Bone, Lisa B, Lisa H, Lisa ML, Luxury Guinea Pigs, Mace of Pentacles, Mad Nej, Madeline, Maddie P, Madison E, Madison M, Maja L, Mac, Mock, McKenna P, Maria O, Marina W, Mario A, Maris G, Marissa G, Marty F, Mary A, Mateo NL, Matthew L, Matthew M, Maddie Joe, Max M, Mason G, Meg R, Mega Lantern, Megan, McGinnis, Megan N, Mega Red, Megan, Doherty, Melissa G, Melissa H, Melissa S, Mellow 82, Mercy DM, Metal Pineapple, Miami Cat Mom. Oh my God, Miami Cat Mom. God, I don't know why that just made me so excited that there's a cat mom in Miami. Michael, Michael B, Michael M, Michael S, Michael T, Mikey BDX7, Minnie W, Mo, Molly, Molly P, Monica H, Monica R, Mother of Frogs. Oh my God, hi Mother of Frogs. Say hi to your froggies for me. Mumble, and Maya L. Maya or Mia L. I'm not quite sure. I think it's Maya, but I'm just going to say Mia L just in case. Mumble, I feel like I kind of said your name super fast, so I'm going to say it again. Mumble. Thank you guys so much. I really can't thank you enough. Truly. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of our hearts. We are so grateful that you guys are choosing to be sponsors and to help keep this show running. We're constantly trying to find new ways to improve the show for you. This year, we've been bringing you video episodes, which obviously you're probably aware of by now, but if you weren't aware, you can head over to our YouTube channel and watch all these videos, not only in audio form, but also in video form. Bringing you video episodes each week instead of audio only comes with extra time, extra money. So we are so grateful to those of you who choose to become patrons. And if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I want to become a patron and hear my name shouted out on a future episode, all you have to do is head over to patreon.com/c/Let's Get Haunted at any time, and you can become a donor in order to hear your name shouted out in a future episode. And now it's time for the secret password of the week that you will comment on this week's photo dump, which is Bingus Bathroom Challenge 2025. See you guys next week. Bye.